What's up, guys? We're back once again to r/malicious compliance. My voice is back and I'm ready to get it going. So let's get in the stories and I'll see you in a bit. Stop telling me when your mail is missing. Okay. I worked as a mailwoman for a few years for a short period of time, and my boss wasn't much of a boss. All she did was relay messages from her boss to me. On my starting day, she told me several times, I want to know everything. So if something is wrong, call me immediately. After a few weeks, I started to learn the patterns in the mail. Church magazines this week, tax letters that week, etc. One day, I noticed that only half of the addresses I cover were going to receive their tax letters. It was literally streets A through H got them, I through Z didn't. This was obviously incorrect, and I called my boss to warn her something might have gone wrong at the sorting center. Her reply, "It's impossible for something to be wrong there. You are probably just imagining things. Don't bother me with this unimportant stuff." A few days later, she called me. "Why didn't you tell me there were so many letters missing? It's raining complaints." I told her that I called her. She denied it and told me one more mistake like that and I'm fired. I hadn't made any mistakes up to that point. I knew she didn't read her email. That's why I called her. But I decided that if she was so intent on blaming me, I should make sure I have evidence. So the next time I noticed stuff was missing that I was supposed to deliver, I mailed her. No response for 4 days. And then I got a scathing email. "Don't email me for unimportant stuff like this. It can't be going wrong at the sorting center. Stop contacting me over every little thing." So I did. I stopped trying to warn her of incoming complaints. And the next week, I saw the perfect opportunity for revenge/malicious compliance. The Christian magazines that were usually delivered to 90% of the addresses had only arrived for 10% of the addresses. Now, an important note, these Christians aren't the nice kind. They're the holier-than-thou kind, and they need their magazines on time or all hell breaks loose. I once delivered them an hour later than usual due to a heavy workload, and they called my boss's boss to complain. I knew they would be absolutely livid if they didn't get their magazines, but my boss told me not to contact her over missing mail, so I didn't. Judging by her angry phone call that evening, her boss had already ripped her a new one, and she was planning on doing the same to me. I just told her, "I have an email from you telling me not to warn you about missing mail. So, what did you expect?" She tried to yell at me, but I was already done at that point, and I just yelled over her, "I quit because of your lousy work ethic, and I will hand in my stuff on Monday." Fun fact about my contract, the company wanted to be able to fire mailmen at any point. So, we also got to quit at any moment, with no notice. She was pissed. This was one of the first times I stood up for myself, and it felt awesome. The job only paid like $100 per month and wasn't many hours, so I didn't really care about losing that income in exchange for not having to deal with that boss again. I got malicious complianced by a 5-year-old. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She's a stubborn little monster. I love her with all my heart. My little monster hates going to bed, even when she's tired. She will not only fight us to avoid the bedtime routines, but she'll fight her own physical exhaustion by running around, dancing, starting her own little concert with that idiotic karaoke machine the missus insisted on getting her, etc. So, last night, it was getting to be bedtime, and I launched the first salvo by asking her or letting her know it's time to get in her jammies. She did not say no. She simply said that she had to keep cleaning. She has a nice little Melissa and Doug cleaning paraphernalia, and had been using the duster to dust off the fridge, at least as high as her 40-inch height would allow. She gave me a mini Karen look, and the manager, Mrs., and I agreed she could clean one more thing, and then she would have to get ready for bed. So this cheeky little monkey gets the tiny dustpan and her little brush and sits down in one corner of the kitchen. This bull-headed person proceeds to clean the entire kitchen floor by hand. 20 minutes later, she's ready to put on her jammies. The floor was legitimately clean. I wasn't even mad. It was amazing. You need scan guns? Hold on. Let me get you fired first. Greetings once again, Reddit. I come to you now with what will be my juiciest of malicious compliance yet. To give a little backstory here, I've submitted several posts of malicious compliance on this subreddit from my job as a network admin at a food processing plant. While the ones I've posted have been good, I feel like this one would be my magnum opus for the situation, drama, and ultimate conclusion. Without further ado, let me tell you this story. So, this started earlier today when my coworker approached me after working on the floor, informing me of how Kevin approached him in regards to the scan guns that he said he needs ready by today. Scan guns that, for starters, we do not have available, but I'll explain that in a moment. First, let me tell you a little about Kevin so you know exactly what I'm dealing with here. Kevin is this company's plant manager, and he's, for a lack of a better term, abrasive. If I can describe him better, he's the type of manager that loves to micromanage his employees while demanding the most out of every and anyone when he feels that he needs something important done. This is where our situation came in. Long story short, Kevin wanted the OmniScan guns that shipping mainly uses for inventory to be used by his employees to track pallets to ensure that they are accurate. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, I thought so too, even if he had that out of the blue. Well, as I soon found out today, things soon escalated the way that they did, and while I wish things were handled better, I did the best that I could in the end. So, there aren't any real regrets here. So, steering back to the situation, Kevin told my coworker that the other two scan guns, because the company only had 3, were either broken or unaccountable. That obviously didn't sit well with either of us, because now, to remedy that, he wanted the scan guns we had on reserve for a special project to be used for his project. My coworker recorded the convo, which will be used later, and asked if I could step in to talk with him. So I did. Walking to the area Kevin was in, I can see that I wasn't alone. Not that it really mattered, since my business was with him. I addressed Kevin, the situation with the scan guns, and, per our IT policy, we must determine the status of the guns. Why one is broken and the other is missing? How broken is the gun? Why was there no better accountability made for our assets? Etc. Kevin, in his own fashion, didn't have an answer for me, but instead told me to go ask whoever had the guns and find out why. I looked at him dead in the eyes and asked him, "Sir, isn't this your project? Shouldn't you be held accountable since the equipment was under your care at the time?" Obviously, Kevin somehow took offense to that, as he felt that I was being disrespectful, and that how dare I put him on the spot like that. So, as always in situations like this, I decided to call my boss and inform him of the situation, and asked for his input. Putting my phone on speaker, my boss informed Kevin that he cannot accommodate what he wants simply because we do not have what he wants, nor can it be done the same day. Kevin then suggested the scan guns that we have reserved for that special project. My boss obviously told him no, as he will not be allocating assets for a project to fill his needs. Kevin tried to dispute this, saying that he wanted this done today. My boss said, and I quote this happily, Well, if you had enough foresight to inform us of this project sooner, we would have been able to accommodate you better. Keep in mind that per our policy, should the plant have any and all projects that will involve IT, related assets and/or information, it must be coordinated with the IT department prior to deployment to ensure a seamless transition. You didn't, and therefore you have to accept the consequences as someone in management should. Keep in mind also that prior to calling my boss, I was also recording my combo with Kevin, because anyone here on this subreddit knows that CYA is absolutely essential. I then proceeded to resume recording, giving Kevin the illusion that I was hanging up with my boss, which I did, but he didn't need to know all the deets, lol. I then asked Kevin if there was anything else he needed from me, to which he had a bit of a grump and told me he found me to be very unreasonable, basically saying that I wasn't doing my job properly, and that if it were up to him, he would fire me on the spot for being so incompetent. Sure, Kevin, keep feeding me that delicious info. So, I went back to my office to see what I can wrap up on for the day, when I got a call from my HR manager to report to her office. Y'all already know where this is going, but we're coming to the conclusion here, so buckle up. So I walked in there, and sure enough, Kevin is there too with a smug look on his face. My HR manager told me that Kevin informed her that he found my conduct with him to be very disrespectful, and that I refused to accommodate him with what he needed, or gave a valid excuse why. It's no surprise here, but I was ready for this. Prior to even showing up, I had my coworker email me the recording he had with Kevin, since by that time, he had left work and went home. Along with my recordings, I had what I needed, but I wanted to put the cherry on top. So, after a quick text to my boss, he showed up with the most serious expression I've ever seen him in. Keep in mind also that he was supposed to be starting his vacation, and getting dragged in for Kevin's BS did not sit well with him. So, after Kevin said his piece and I said mine, the HR manager turned to me and said, "That one guy 141, do you have any evidence that dismisses Kevin's accusations?" With the most professional looking, smug look on my face, I told her that I did. So I pulled out my phone and pulled up the 2 recordings that both my coworker and I had with our conversation with Kevin. So, after listening to the convos, Kevin's expression went from smug to as if he saw a ghost. Without much to say, the HR manager turned to Kevin and told him, "How can you even say such a thing to someone here? That one guy 141 has been one of the most dedicated workers here. Being in the job that he's in, he has a lot on his plate to contend with. It is also a policy that his manager enforces that they do not keep surplus equipment if it's not meant to be utilized to its fullest extent. That is why we order through them, to supply exactly what we need. Your conduct towards him does not merit any actual justification through your callous words and berating him in the manner that you took." Afterwards, I stepped out with my boss, while the HR manager doles out what she felt was necessary to Kevin. Not long afterwards, he left her office without saying a word to either my boss or I. Going back into her office, we were told that Kevin already had a history of this sort of thing happening. But without any substantial evidence, they couldn't can him. We did, and it was more than enough, along with the paper trail stacked against him, to get his butt fired. Again, this happened just today, so I'm feeling a mix of anxiety, joy, and some sadness for Kevin. In some misguided way, I know he was just trying to do his job, but I just wished he could have handled things better. Anyways, thanks for reading, guys, and have a good one. TLDR, a manager wanted our department to replace devices he didn't have accountability for, and after informing him of our policies, then proceeded to berate me which led to him getting fired. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, go to the description below, go to their post and give these guys an upvote. It really does help us out when they're willing to share their stories, so let's give a little bit back. Anyways, no bonus today, just because how long the video was, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.